Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to show you how to make a flower ball. I'm actually going to be working with this one. This is the largest flower ball that I have made. This uses our 20 millimeter O-rings to make it, which is why it's so large. This one is made in a very similar way. This is made with our 15 millimeter O-rings. So you can see I'm actually using the same size jump rings in this one and the same size O-rings, but because these are a 15 millimeter and that's an outer diameter measurement, this turns out much smaller. And it also turns out much more dense. You can see that there's a lot of large open holes in this one, whereas this one is very dense. This one isn't all that squeezable. I'm slightly squeezing on it and it doesn't move too much. This one is made with 12 millimeter O-rings and our 725 millimeter O-rings, and then the jump rings in this one are 16 gauge 5/16. So this is another size down, so you can see, just want you to see in my hands how large and small each of these is, okay? And then if you really get good at this, this is our flower ball pumpkin project. With something like this, it is nice to buy the kit because, of course, you get all the little beads and all the little, findings and things that you need to put this project together. So this is our flower ball pumpkin. This is made with our 7.4 millimeter O-rings, and in between are our 5 millimeter O-rings. And I believe these are 18 gauge 3/16 jump rings, which is a pretty standard size. And I just wanted to show you one more. This one I made with a long chain, and I made this as kind of a lariat. So I kind of made this one to be like snowballs that I could wear at Christmas time during the winter, just to kind of tie and wear with a scarf or with sweaters or something like that, and just be real cute. So this is another option. So all sorts of different sizes, all sorts of different approaches. These can obviously be Christmas ornaments if they're just hung. You see I have a little hanger on this one. This isn't long enough to hang on a Christmas tree, but just to show you that something can easily be slipped through. In the case with the pumpkin, I just want to show you that I actually went directly through one of the flowers in order to get it to hang in a very straight manner. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to begin a flower ball, the first thing we're going to need to do is go ahead and pick up 2 of our larger O-rings, okay, and see how I put it onto a piece of leather. You can use a piece of wax cotton. These are really big size O-rings, so I would actually say the wax cotton would work even better for this, just because you have a little bit more grip. The leather can tend to be a little bit slippery. But see how I'm using my right hand to pull, and my left hand, I'm grabbing the 10 millimeter O-ring, the smaller O-ring, and pulling it over top of these 2. Now, for later, in case this doesn't go on smoothly, you can correct it just by pulling these off to the side. So see how I'm squeezing 1 1/2, the other 1 1/2. We're going to be using these rings this way anyway, so this is a good way to get them ready and lay them down. So I'm just going to show you a couple more of these. I put 2 on. I put my smaller O-ring on. I'm using the leather like a needle, and I pull this on here. Okay, this isn't perfectly in the middle. Again, the good way to correct this is just by, pulling these in half. Put 2 on. Smaller ring. Pull it on. Squeeze them. Okay, and I just want you to notice with this very largest size, I'm only using 1 smaller O-ring, but something you could definitely try and do is use 2 of them. Maybe 3 would work too, but I think 2 of them would be attractive and something else to try to make your flowers look different. Okay, so this one, see how this one's dipping down into the center of the other one a little bit? Okay, so this is why I discovered this correction, just to get get our pieces in order. Okay, so those are all ready. You can't see them all, but I have 30 of these made. Okay, so that means you're gonna need 60 of the larger size O-rings. You're gonna need 30 of, at least, of the smaller size O-rings. And then for this largest size, so when I'm working with either the 20 millimeter or the 15 millimeter O-rings, which have a thickness, I believe, of 2.5 millimeter thickness to the O-ring, I'm going to use the 16 gauge 3/8 inch jump rings, and these seem to work just fine. Okay, so we'll get started with this. So I'm going to do, so you see how I squeeze those in half, so it's easy to put one of these onto here. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna let this, I'm gonna keep feeding this up. I wanna only be grabbing the very tip because I'm gonna keep adding 4. Okay, almost there. And 5. Okay, so you're squeezing on almost more O-rings than you think could possibly fit onto this jump ring, but that's okay. Now I'm going to use my table to hold this in place while I grab my other pair of pliers that I'm going to come in with. And I need to grab the other side of this jump ring, and then I'm going to close it. Okay. So this is our very first flower. Okay, so this is going to be our top center flower. Now, I need to keep track of where this guy is. That's going to be really important to me. So I just brought in a little bit of elastic. You can really use anything to mark this with. This just seemed the easiest thing to me. And I am going to just tie a little string. I want this string to be easy to get off later, okay, because this is not contributing to our work of art here. This is just to mark our center top flower so that as we move along, we know exactly what we're looking at. Because as you add more and more flowers to this, it gets really confusing as to what piece you're looking at. Okay, so you see I knotted that, and then I'm gonna just come in and cut this short. Okay, I don't need it to be long, it's just a marker, and I really don't want it getting in my way. Okay, so just cut that off short. Okay, so now I have marked my top center flower so that as I'm adding around this, I'm not getting confused as to where I'm at. Okay, so I'm gonna remove my cutters there. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, and I'm going to add another flower. So you can see here, if I'm working off the top center flower, I don't have any other spokes I'm going to grab onto. So this very first one, we're going to pass through the 1, and I'm going to go ahead and feed this up as far as I can. The other way you can do this too, I know that I'm going to have 5. Okay, so an easier way, just to show you, might be to go, here's 1, and then here's 2. Okay, so I've got those first 2 on, and then I'm going to pass through the one that's part of the existing piece, 3, 4. Okay, and when you get to the 5th one, this is when it's really important to kind of choke up on the work and give yourself as much space as you can to get that 5th one on. Okay, see 5. I'm gonna use the mat to hold my work, and I'm gonna close. Okay, so now you can see, here's my top center flower, and you can see I'm starting to go around this top center flower. So this is the very first one. Now that I have this one on, You can see that I can use this O-ring and then this O-ring. So that means I'm gonna pass through 2 and then I'm gonna add 3 more onto there, okay? So, let me get another jump ring. Okay, I think I'll put one on, just to get myself started. Then I only have 2 new ones to add on at the end. Okay, so I'm gonna pass through this. This one's the side one, I know, because my string's there. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3. So this is off of the next petal in the center flower. And just so you're aware, this particular rubber O-ring is so large that there's lots of room around it, which you're not necessarily going to have with some of the smaller sized O-rings. This is going to be a really wide open flower. 4 and 5. Okay, so again, I'm going to use my table to hold my work in place till I can get this pair of pliers in, and I'm going to close. Okay, so that's 1, and then I've got 1, 2, and I'm going to need 3, 4, 5 to move forward. Okay, so now I'm bringing in my next jump ring, just like the last one. I'm going to go ahead and pick up 1. Okay, and I'm turning this so you can see that I'm going to go here and here. So the second one I passed through is part of the center flower. The first one was part of the flower that I just added. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, close that jump ring. I like to pull things back out as I'm going along too. Keeps the flowers from being distorted as I go along. Okay, and then this is going to be the last one where we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new ones. The last one, we're going to have this side and this side to work with, so we're only going to end up adding 2 when we get to the final one. Okay, so let me do 1 new one first. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Okay, so now we put 4 flowers around the center one. And then this is going to be our 5th one. So when we get to the end, as I said, we're using our 4th one and our 1st one. Okay, so we'll be using this O-ring, and then 1 still from our center flower. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up 1. And then turn this around. So that's from the 4th one. This is from the center middle one. You can tell because I've got my string here. And this is from the 1st one. Okay, so I'm gonna gotta keep squeezing these on. And 1 more. Okay, so this first round is pretty easy. So It's when we get to this next round that it can get a little bit confusing to see. Okay, so now that we've come all the way around full circle, you can see that my my ball is already starting to curve in and kind of form a half a sphere. So let's go ahead and get started with the next round. Okay, and just fixing some of these. Okay, so now to start our next round, what we're going to be doing is when we start each new flower, we're going to work off these 5 that we just added. On each one as we work, we're going to be working off of one of the side ones and one of the side ones. So we'll be working between 2 flowers now, okay? Let's go ahead and get our jump ring. Okay, so there's 1 and 2. Okay, so see how that's starting to make a flower between 2 of these flowers from the last row that we created. Okay, squeeze them up. And then we need 3, 4, and 5. So just as with our previous row, the very first pickup that we did, the first flower that we added the largest number of O-rings. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, on this next one, yes, we want to be using these 2 that are between the flowers, but we're going to use one of the ones from the ones we just added. Okay, so, and again, this is when it becomes really important to know this is our center flower. So this is my outer ring, and then this is a 3rd row that I'm working on way down here. This is when this can get very, very skewed for you. Okay, so I'm going to work off 1 from the flower that I just added, and then I'm going to go between the next 2 flowers, which are from the previous row. I'm going to keep feeding my ring into here. And then I'm going to add 1 and 2. Okay, so I only need 2 for the next few rows here. I managed to do that without using my mat to hold it. Okay, so now we have 2 flowers in the 3rd row. Okay, I'm gonna try and keeping track of that, although if I lose track of where I'm at, again, I can go back to that center flower. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. This is from the flower that I just added. Okay, and then between the next 2 flowers. Okay, feed that jump ring in. We got 1 and 2. Okay, so that's 3 new flowers we added. Okay, and I was right here, so I'm going to work off of the one I just added, and then between the next 2 flowers, you can see my ball is starting to form on its own because I'm squeezing everything up together. I'm using a lot of the connections that I had made previously. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Okay, and then this is the one I just added. And I know, so see how I'm looking up at, this is my center, down one more. Here we go. This is where my last one goes. Okay, it does get very confusing and hard to see. Now, being that this is number 5 of this row, I am only needing to add 1. Oops, actually I picked the wrong part. Okay, here, let me let you see this from above. See how this section dips down further? Oops, let's see. Okay, so see how I have my my center? So I just got confused there. I actually was at the right spot. But you see how my center, I can see that that's down at the base. So I'll just show you this one a little bit more clearly. So again, this is the flower that I just added. These are the 2 in between. And then this is from the first flower. So I need to grab up all these 4 rings. Like I said, it gets trickiest as you start getting to the end because you've got so much going on that it's hard to see where you're at. And that's why we mark that center row, so that I could always go back and understand where exactly I was at within the design. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you know what? I only have 1 rubber O-ring piece left, and that's going here. And then when I get to the end of this, I literally have 1 jump ring left. So when I get to the end of this step, it's going to be very clear whether I've done this properly, because see how I have 1, let me move that a little bit for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 O-rings left. I only have 1 jump ring. And I can also, if I look down into the piece, see that the string is attached to the one that's completely opposite of me. Okay, so we're just going to finish this up. We're going through 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep pushing those O-rings up towards your right hand side of your jump ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once we close this guy, we have a flower ball. Okay, so he's still a little bit contorted. He should be a she if it's a flower ball. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of pull these out and make sure that it has its shape as a ball. Okay, so you can see I can kind of pull these in different ways. Okay, and there you have it, a flower ball. Now, just to finish off, we're just gonna come in here and clip that piece of string off. See if I can grab it with my pliers. There we go. Okay, so perfect little flower ball. These are great for decor. I've made necklaces with these. They're just fun little stress balls to play with, and you can make them in all sorts of different sizes. So I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you next time. Thank you.